I've entitled this, We Are God's Hands. We are the hands that God uses to get God's work done. Now, in this particular section of Matthew 25, Jesus is talking about the final judgment. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. Before him will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will place the sheep on his right, but the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right, Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, thirsty and give you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visited you? And the king will answer them, Truly, I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these, my brethren, you do it to me. Then he will say to those on the left, the goats, Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry and you gave me no food. I was thirsty and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger and you did not welcome me. I was naked and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison and you did not visit me. Then they also will answer, saying, Lord, when would we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked and sick or in prison and did not minister to you? And then he will answer them, saying, Truly I say to you, as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. And these will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life. May God add his richest and choicest blessings to the reading, the proclamation of his holy and blessed word. Michael Jordan, undoubtedly, is considered by many people to be the greatest basketball player of all time. We all have those images floating around in our minds of how he would dart up and down that basketball court and all of those slam dunks and all of those plays that were just fascinating. There's the fame, there's the popularity, there's the commercials, there's the championships, there's the Air Jordan shoes. So many things that we think of when we hear the name Michael Jordan. But I'd like to share with you a side of Michael Jordan that maybe you have not heard before. It involves a young boy by the name of Cornelius. Cornelius was a thin boy. He was frail. He was extremely timid and shy. Cornelius was 9 years old. His little brother was 4 years old. His mother and his mother's boyfriend had tortured, abused, and starved these two little boys. They were locked up in a pen in the backyard, neighbors hearing the cries, but not really knowing what to do or what it was. Finally, the police, and this is a true story, was notified. They were notified in time for little Cornelius. Unfortunately, it was too late for his 4-year-old brother, Laddie McGee. A newspaper reporter in Chicago was writing about this story in one of his columns. And the reporter said that Cornelius has two passions. He loves reading and he loves basketball. Well, the vice president of the Chicago Bulls, Steve Shanwald, was reading that article. And upon reading that article, he called that reporter, Samuel Johnson. Now, first of all, let me just pause for a moment. Let's just bear in mind that all seats with no exception, to any of the Chicago Bull games are sold out. But the vice president said, if Cornelius would like to go to a basketball game, I will make sure a seat is available for him. The reporter, along with the Cook County Assistant State Attorney, took Cornelius to the game. Now just picture, if you will, in your mind, this Chicago youngster finding himself now in the Chicago Bulls arena. It must have appeared to be a shrine. And think of where Cornelius had been. Locked up like an animal, tormented, beaten, hurting, and hungry. And now he's in this huge arena getting ready to see the very first Chicago Bulls basketball game. The three of them, Cornelius, the reporter, and the Cook County Assistant Attorney, walked down a stairway to the lower level hallway. The door opened and a man came out the door. Cornelius looked up at this tall guy with a combination of wonder and awe and total disbelief. He tried to speak to the man, but the words just wouldn't come out. So the man helped him by speaking first. And he looked down at him and said, "Hello, Cornelius. My name is Michael Jordan." They talked for a few minutes, laughed and joked. In fact, Michael asked, "You are going to be rooting for us tonight, aren't you?" Now, you've got to understand that for a long time, the only adults Cornelius had any contact with were people that was out to hurt him. We can only imagine in our own minds what little Cornelius was experiencing. The reporter and the assistant county attorney walked Cornelius upstairs to the ball court. But that wasn't the end of the surprise. Cornelius was given a red shirt, the kind that was worn by the ball boys. And he was able to retrieve the balls from both teams as they were warming up before the game. And then, as the game began to start, he was led to Jordan's seat on the Bulls bench. And it was there that he got to sit right next to Michael Jordan. Cornelius Abraham was filled with so much joy, regardless how long he lives. If he lives to be 150, he'll never forget that event. And moments after the game starts, Michael Jordan hits a basket right before his very eyes. Now, why is that story important? As we tie it in with this passage here, the act of kindness that Michael Jordan and his team showed to Cornelius is one that reminds me, greatness in the kingdom of heaven is measured by small acts of kindness. I see our church so many times in so many ways doing so many acts of kindness. I applaud that. I accentuate that. I encourage you to continue doing it, and I encourage others to do it if you're not doing it. Now, in our gospel reading from Matthew today, we hear the Lord's concern about small amounts of kindness, small amounts of service to others. Now, in order for us to really understand the full meaning in this context here, you need to know that in the countryside, sheep and goats on any given day would mingle together. But at night, they were often separated by the shepherd. The sheep were able to tolerate cooler temperatures, while the goats had to be herded together in order to stay warm. And right here in this passage, we see Jesus taking this common activity of a shepherd and applying some deep, meaningful symbolism to it and how we can apply it to our own walk. You see, as I look at this passage and as I read it over and over again, there's not any gray area here. It's black or white. It's either goats or sheep. The picture is painted very clearly here. And everyone falls in to one of those two categories. Every one of us will either be goats on the left side or we will be sheep on the right side. Now the sheep are identified as the righteous and are given the right hand, which is the place of power. It is the place of honor. There is a distinction between the sheep and the goats, and it's easy for us, if we read this passage, to make that distinction. The righteous are represented by the sheep, and they are identified in certain ways. I pulled out 3 things from this passage that can help us better understand what we, if we are to be sheep, are to be doing. The righteous provided others with simple acts of kindness. Simple acts of kindness. Giving someone a cold glass of water, something to eat, something to wear, just making a visit. See, these are simple acts, but yet they are basic, profound, important acts of kindness. There's no pomp. There's no circumstance. There's no plaque on the wall saying, hey, look what I have done. There's no prestige. God's followers are noted for numerous acts of kindness, simple acts of self-sacrificing service. See, these are acts that are rendered to those that God places in our lives. And I'm convinced God places certain people in our lives. I believe that God places certain people in our lives just to see what we are going to do, how we are going to treat them, how we're going to assess the situation and do what we need to do without any fanfare. Now, the second thing I notice, the righteous use their resources to be a blessing. Now, there's some that will use their resources for themselves. This is mine. Nobody else is getting it. Then there's others that will use their resources as a blessing. And I want you to take note of an unusual part of this final judgment scene that we see Matthew recording in the 25th chapter. It is the way those on the left hand try to excuse themselves on the ground. Lord, we did not have any opportunity to do such things. We didn't see anybody hungry and feed them, thirsty and give them water. We didn't see anybody naked and give them clothes. We didn't see anybody in prison and visit them. What are you talking about, Lord? So they're trying to excuse themselves on that ground, particularly there in verses 44 and 45. As I look at this, though, this is the sin of omission. See, we can commit sin by omitting to do what we know we need to be doing. And I think in this particular case, the sin of omission is greater than the sin of commission, the sins that we do commit. It reminds me of the door that was shut on the foolish bridesmaid because of their negligence. That's another sermon in itself. You see, we are blessed to be a blessing. One of the reasons we're blessed, I believe, so that we can pass on that and be a blessing to others. In other words, to become rich toward God is passing simple yet powerful blessings on to others. Now, I've got a couple of stories today. I like the Michael Jordan story, but I like this one too. In 1921, Lewis Laws, L-A-W-E-S, became a warden at Sing Sing Prison. Now, at that time, you need to know that no prison anywhere in the country was any tougher than that prison. But when Warden Laws retired 20 years later, that prison had become a humanitarian institution. Here it was, a mean prison with mean criminals. 20 years later, it was identified as a humanitarian institution. Now, those who studied the penal system said credit for the change belonged to Warden Laws. But when he was asked about the transformation that had taken place in his prison, he said, I owe it all to my wonderful wife, Catherine, who incidentally had been buried just outside the prison walls. You see, you need to know that Catherine was a young mother with 3 little children when her husband became warden at the Sing Sing prison. And everyone had warned her from the very beginning, you should not set foot anywhere in those prison walls. But that didn't stop Catherine. In fact, when they had their first prison basketball game, she was there. And she walked her 3 children into the gymnasium and sat right there with the inmates. Her attitude was this: my husband and I are going to take care of these guys, and I believe in turn they will take care of us. She insisted on getting to know them. She insisted on spending time with them. She discovered that there was a murderer that was blind. She went and paid him a visit. She asked him, do you know Braille? And she said, what is Braille? She taught him Braille so that he was able to read. Later, Catherine found a deaf mute in that same prison. And she went to school to learn sign language so she could offer him that help. Many people right there in that prison said Catherine Laws was the embodiment of Jesus Christ. She was the embodiment that came alive in Sing Sing prison from 1921 to 1937. Unfortunately, in 1937, her life was taken in an automobile accident. And the next morning, understandably so, Lewis, the warden, did not show up for work. So the acting warden took his place. And it seemed that almost everybody knew instantly that something was not right. Warden Laws was not there, and his wife Catherine was not there. The following day, her body was resting in a casket in her home near Sing Sing prison. And as the acting warden was taking his early morning walk, he was shocked to see such a huge crowd of tough, hardened criminals gathered like a lost herd of sheep at the main gate. And as he got closer, he noticed the tears running down their cheek. He saw the grief-stricken sadness on their face. And he turned and faced them and said, all right, guys, you can go. He opened the gate, and a parade of criminals walked to stand in line and pay their tribute to Catherine Laws. Now, why is that story important here? Listen, my friends. You will find out, if you have not already found out, when you look back on life, the moments that stand out most, the moments that you will remember most and others will remember most about you, is when you showed kindness. Those small acts of kindness, letting people know that you care. You'll find serving others and being a servant of Jesus Christ has a way of lighting a spark in your own life. And when that spark is lit, then it can rejuvenate your own spiritual life. When you know that you've been able to have an impact on somebody's life, even in a small way, it can have a profound impact. And that leads me to my third and final point. The righteous are surprised by the significance of their actions, by the impact of their actions. Now, true disciples, and I would like to believe that every one of us are true disciples. I would like to believe that every one of us are true image bearers of God. And if that be the case, then we will love, we will serve, and at very least we will show compassion. And in so doing, we serve Jesus Christ. Now, those who have little sympathy for the gospel will remain indifferent. Those really won't matter. But the way we respond to those people that God puts in our lives, in turn, will show how we respond to Christ himself. See, I'm convinced you can make a difference. I'm convinced that you are making a difference. Your life, your simple act of kindness, love, mercy, compassion will not only impact the hearts of others that receive that love and compassion, but your heart will also be molded into the likeness of Christ. We are children of the Most High. We are a child of the King. Are we going to fall in the category of goats? Or are we going to fall in the category of sheep? When you do it unto the least of these, Jesus said, you do it unto me. Let us pray. My blessing for each of you is this. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.
See, it seems to me that as a society of believers, we're floating around in midair. It seems like there's nothing out there that's concrete. Nothing out there for us to really stand